Okay, training is going to continue with the container tracker. The container tracker is used for managing purchase orders that are on the water. And the way it works is when you get notified by your broker that merchandise is on the water, it doesn't matter which PO, and it can be from multiple purchase orders. When you get notified, you will put that into the system as on the container, and when you have all the container built, then you would turn it onto the water. You would place it on the water. Once it's on the water, accounting wise, what it does is it moves the goods from on purchase order to an asset account of on the water inventory, and moves the liability into purchase order clearing. When the merchandise arrives and you do a receive container, it moves it out of on the water inventory into physical inventory. Once you receive the invoice for the merchandise and you do a receipt of invoice, it then moves the liability out of the purchase order clearing and into accounts payable. If there's a difference between the landed cost and the standard cost, it will then move that amount into the purchase order variance account. That means that you've got your standard cost either over or undervalued. Okay? You want to keep that purchase order clearing, the purchase order variance account empty at the end of the month. So you're either going to journal it into the value of inventory or offset it to double dipping of freight. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, with that being said, we're ready to continue. So in the container tracker, just like anything else, we have a maintain file. Now, you can actually set up where you actually ship merchandise from. So you can set up here a port, like what port do you ship from?
Navishi.
NAV, we'll call it. And it's NAV ISH.
No, Navashiva. NAVAN space Shiva. SHEVA.
And that is in what city?
Navashiva.
What country?
India.
Because with that information, then you're going to be able to pull it into a pull down menu in the container tracker. Destination entry, where do you get your merchandise into?
Port of Seattle.
SEA. That's in Seattle, Washington, USA. You can also create all of your container sizes. So if you have a 40, which is a 40 foot, clear. You may also use 40 highs, 40H, and you may also use perhaps a 20 foot. Is that about what you use?
Yeah, and a 45 and a 53.
Okay, so 45, I'm sorry, 20 foot. $53. And you said a 45?
Yep.
Okay, with that, that's really all you do in in the maintain files of the container tracker, is set up tables. The next thing we're going to go to is your system options. In the system options of the container module, you need to set up how you're going to distribute your freight. So this is your standard screen of what module, what period you're in, and so forth. You need to identify, are you costing your goods by volume, weight, or value? I have your volume, even though you don't have any volumes in your system, you do need to put those in. Okay, when you fill in a container, you have a choice of choosing from the drop down table without validator, which means it's not gonna validate the cube, or with validation, okay? I'm gonna do with validation just to see how it works, because this is a new feature and I don't know about it.
Okay.
Okay, and that's really all you set up here. So with that being said, we're gonna save it. And the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and create a container. So going to the container module, you can have the system automatically assign it a reference number, or you can put your own reference number in here. I'm gonna let the system assign it. Okay, you choose the vendor that the merchandise is coming from, the container name, the container number, CSUF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The date the container was loaded. If you're drop shipping this container directly to a customer, you would click here, find the customer that you're drop shipping it to, and that's where it would go.
Okay.
Okay? We're not going to do that. The date that it was actually shipped would be filled in here, and the ETA date would be filled in here. Let's say the ETA date is 07/12/08, and it takes approximately 5 days to come from the port to your warehouse. So if I put 5 here, it's going to automatically recalculate this out, taking into consideration if there's a holiday in between.
Okay.
This is business days. Okay? Then you would fill in your actual arrival date and the scheduled time. If you use folder numbers, some people have 30, 40 containers on the market on the water at a time, so they assign a folder number to it. The seal number, if you have it, the shipper name, the container size. Let's say that it's a 40-foot, standard 40-foot. The freight amount, let's say it's $43.57. That's the estimated. When the container actually lands, you put your actual. Okay, when it lands, you'll put the rest of this information in. Any miscellaneous charges, the invoice number that it goes against, where was it shipped from, and where is it being shipped to. And that would all fill in. These are going to be your bill of lading numbers for your overland truck. And then over here is your container comments. So as things happen, you'll fill in comments over here.
Okay.
Any questions on that screen?
No?
Okay, there's a number of ways to add things to a container. One way is, if you don't know the purchase order number something is on, you can simply come over here and put the item number. Do you know an item number that's on a purchase order? Any item number that you have on open purchase.
Try 8803.
8803? No, that's not on any purchase order number.
Try 8803.
Nope. Okay, well, we're not going to do that right now. We'll come back to that. Let's go to the PO information. In the PO's information, you would pick the purchase order that you're putting on the market, on the water. So let's say it's this one right here. So 1007 is one. So if I go back over here and I put 1007, it shows me the purchase order that it's on. Now, this says that I'm expecting to get in 15 pieces. Let's say, for instance, the vendor only shipped me 3 pieces. I can do what's called a split quantity, put 3 pieces here, and the system will automatically split the line for me on the purchase order so that I can receive the balance on another container.
Okay.
So if I say yes to this, come back over here.
Split quantity is more than you ordered.
I put 30?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant to put 3.
So if you put 30, is it gonna?
No, it didn't do anything with it. It just allowed you to take more than you actually ordered.
Okay.
But now that I've changed it to 3, it's automatically saying there are 12 pieces on order and 3 pieces on order, and the 3 pieces are the ones that are coming.
Okay.
Okay? And then I got all of these, and on this one here, I only got 100 pieces. Oops. In the split quantity here,
You turn your number on.
here.
You have
Oh.
to check the box.
No, it's not letting me. One. And that's because I began the process in the item selection instead of in the I didn't choose the purchase order. I chose it over here. So if I go back to here and put that item in, I'll be able to split the quantity here. So go back over here to this, and that's item number 4650-18. 4650-18. And I can split the quantity. It should be able, must have pissed it off. It's not letting me split the quantity. But you got the idea of how to split it. Yeah, it's not gonna let me. See?
Okay.
Because I put too much in and I had an error. Okay, and let's say for instance, along with this same container, I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. What it does is it moves it over into here, shows me that I'm getting 3 pieces plus 75 pieces. If I come back over here and say, I'm also getting in this container, I can come over here and say, I'm getting in 600 of this, split the quantity. I'm getting in 50 of this, split the quantity. This one I'm getting all of it in. This one I'm getting it all in. So when I hit save, this is what I'm getting in.
Okay.
When I'm all done with this, with setting up my container, and it tells me what my total cost is, if my weight and volumes were filled in, it would tell me down here how many pieces I'm expecting. And if that were all done, then I would turn around and say, okay, I'm ready to put this on the water. And when I put it on the water, save it, it's been placed on the water, then close the window. I go to my purchase order module, and I go to my purchase order processing and receiving. And then I go to purchase order update. This is that has to be posted. So if I go to the screen, it doesn't have my report writer, the right reports in it. Okay, so when you run the update, I'm going to just do a screen to show you the reports that it's going to generate. It's going to automatically give me 3 tabs. This is my variance report, which means that I issued purchase orders at $23 cost, but they came in, my standard cost is $22.68. So I'm going to end up with a variance, in this case, of $82. Okay? This is my on the water report telling me of the 2 POs, what products I'm putting on water. And this is how it's going to hit my general ledger. Remember I said that it's going to go into inventory on the water, it's going to go into purchase order clearing, and my difference is going to go into my variance.
Okay, so if I buy at a higher cost, or I buy at a lower cost than the standard cost, you're telling me there's always going to be a variance.
That's right.
So where's the variance go?
In that case, it would go into the value of, if it's higher, you offset it to the value of inventory and adjust your standard cost in your inventory.
Okay, but if I'm adjusting, why wouldn't it just receive it at the actual cost?
It does receive it at the actual cost, but doesn't change the value of inventory because you're on standard cost. If you're on average cost, there will be no variance. Okay? Most importers, though, stay on standard cost. Okay?
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, so when I'm done with that, I say yes to print the journals. It updates it. And now what you'll see is if I go out into inventory and look at that item, 1007, and I go to my warehouse tab, I will see on my warehouse tab that I have 12 pieces on the PO. And if I drill into it, it shows me what my ETA date is. if I go to my sales orders,
Go
it shows.
back
I
to
will.
that.
I will.
Okay.
Just a second. This is who has it on order with me, and the date that I'm supposed to ship it. On purchase order shows I have 12 pieces remaining open. My ETA date,
Which is no longer valid.
which is no longer valid because I haven't updated it. But we're going to get to that in a minute, because I'm going to show you how to change that.
Okay.
And how many pieces I have on the water. It tells me that it's who my vendor is, when I'm expecting to receive it, and what file number it's in my container tracker.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, so we know that
Cool, thanks, Steve.
we know that that's not valid, that ETA date's not valid. I'm just going to look at the PO number. It's 5008. Now, if I go back into my purchase order module and I edit that, because now I have a new ETA date of that item, 5008, and I change my ETA date, now I know that my ETA has been moved out to August 12th. Once I save it, it asks me, do I want to update the ETA date down the line? So if I say yes to this, come back over here, clear, put it back in, 1007. Watch it make a liar of me. Yeah, it didn't update because I had it open. But it will change that to August. But I had it open on the screen
Okay.
when it updated. Okay? It will update that.
So you have to go back in and do it again?
Let me close this and try it. Or it's broken. Update the details. Yes. Just make sure that it's updated over here. It didn't update the detail here. I'm going to have to report that to the program because it's supposed to update it here,
Yeah.
but it didn't.
Right. No, that's
So we'll get that fixed
okay.
and get it repaired. All right. So now that the container is on the water,
I need to miss one, did I remember?
okay. So back in the container tracker. Now let's say we got the whole container in. We received it. So now we would fill in the actual date that we got it. Actual arrival date is 071508, for instance. My actual freight cost was $4,300. My customs fees were $15. My the date it cleared customs was 071208. My broker fees were $256. I had no miscellaneous charge, and the invoice number I got it on was 12345. And the invoice date was 070108. Then I would go over here and do a receipt of container. It'll say, do you want to receive the container? You say yes, it's been received. And again, close it, go to the purchase order module, and post it.
You're welcome.
And there's how it's now moving it from on the water into physical inventory. This is the receipt on the water, and this is my variance report.
Okay.
Okay? And we're done? There you got it. That's it. Go back to container tracker. And the only thing left in container tracker, there really isn't anything else left to do in container tracker except the reports. So if I ran a report by vendor, one of the things I didn't show you is the ability, I don't think that's active. Some of the modules allow you to do an individual query. So if I do this right here, I want only what's on container. Screen. This shows me all of the items that are out on container. This is container forecast report by vendor.
Yeah.
And that's really all there is about the container tracker. Do you have any questions?
No?
Utilities, you would not go into those. Those allow you to manually go into the databases. And that's all there is to it.
So what part of the container maintenance is where the invoices get set up and cross over to the APA?
That is when you go, we're going to get to that next. That's in the
Okay.
purchase order module. So now that we have that, we're going to go to the purchase order module. And in the purchase order module, you're going to go to purchase order entry and receiving. Pull up that purchase order number that we're working on, which is this one. And you're going to see that there's some things left on back order here. Those are things we haven't received. Okay, we're going to do a receipt of invoice. Now we've got the invoice for the merchandise. We say no to receiving all of it because we didn't get invoiced for everything. We only got invoiced for what we got. So if you come over here and you go into what we got invoiced for, down here at the bottom it tells me I received 15 pieces and so far I haven't recorded an invoice for them. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say I got invoice for 15 pieces of this. This one I got 0, I received 0 and I have 12 on back order. This one here I received 20 pieces in. This one here I received 100 pieces in. Nothing here. I'm sorry, I received 75 pieces there. And I received 3 pieces here.
Okay.
Okay? And then I want to also verify when I have it open on in my hand, I want to verify that I actually got invoiced for the right price. Because sometimes you get an invoice in from, especially you, and the price you originally negotiated is not the price that's on the invoice. Okay? Any questions? So at this point I would put the invoice number in that I got it under. And exit. Come back and post it.
Before you post it, typically you wire transfer the funds before you
Haven't gotten there
receive the
yet.
container. So would
Haven't
I
gotten
do
there.
this?
You would.
Okay.
You would still post it.
Okay.
Okay? But let's pretend we did a wire transfer before we got we haven't received the container. So to do a wire transfer for this vendor, you would be in accounts payable, check processing. The vendor I believe I set up was, that I bought this from,
My broker. Yeah.
was that. I'm going to do a manual check, 00. This is going to be a wire transfer, WT, and I probably put the date in, which is 070108 as the check as the reference number, unless you have the reference number from the bank, because you're going to match that to your bank statement. And then I'm going to put the date here, 070108, and here I'm going to do an F8 and I'm going to do a prepayment. And the prepayment is going to be for, and I put the PO number here, okay, 123, whatever it was. I don't have it in front of me. Oh, it was 5008. 5008. And because I didn't receive this complete, I'm going to put 5008A as a prefix to it,
Yeah.
okay? Because it has to be a unique number so you don't pay an invoice twice. Okay, and I'm going to say I paid $300. I don't know what the whole invoice was because I didn't look. Okay, post it. And we already went through this in the AP module.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to post it real quickly to show you what the effect is. Okay, so now when I'm back in my purchase order module, now we got the invoice and now I'm going to receive it in. I'm going to post it. And it's the normal stuff, shows you all the transactions. And update is successful. Now, if we go back to the accounts payable module and we do an inquiry on vendor, you'll see the net effect here. Okay, so you can see a $300 prepayment here. You see the invoice we just posted, and you see another invoice that's out there. Okay.
Yeah.
So now when I go to pay this, the final, I would go over here to accounts payable, check processing, check entry, because it's going to be done through a wire transfer also
Right.
normally. And I would bring this down here so I can see both screens. The vendor number I already know is 1009, so I don't have to even browse it in. Transaction number is 1. This is a manual check, bank 00, WT, and the day that I'm paying that off, which will be, let's say 070508, 070508. And when I'm down into this area here, I hit F3, I click on this magnifier and I say, okay, I'm going to pay off this invoice and I'm also going to use my prepayment. And I hit select and it tells me I have to pay $624.90.
Okay. Sweet.
So when I'm finished with this, this is what's even sweeter. I love doing this part. I'm going to update it. Okay, so now if I go and actually look at this vendor again, let me clear it out, 10009, it now shows that those two are zero balance. But here's the best part about it. If I click print and show the history of this vendor, now you'll see all the activity on this one thing. You can see this is my prepayment on this one, this was where I used it, and this is the balance.
Yeah. So
The total amount due still outstanding is $44.55.
and that's
But
for
that's
the
a different
product you
invoice.
haven't received.
Yeah, that's, well, no, that's another invoice that we put in yesterday.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
an invoice we
gotcha.
put in yesterday.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Is that in the value of the PO was?
No, it's just this one, it's just this one here.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay?
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, well that concludes our container tracking and purchase order receiving, container receiving, and completion of the purchase order.
Great.